welcome to a new video. Today I'm sitting down for my Lisbon Book Fair haul. Now, I know you are used to them. I know I've been doing them for a long time, since 2015. So you know what's coming. So this year I went a little insane. Just a tiny smidge. So I have a lot of books to show you. Not only do I have the book fair books to show you, I also have some books I bought before the book fair, which I never do. You know, that's a rule I've been establishing for myself. It's that I don't buy books May before the start of the Lisbon Book Fair. Now, this year I was working at the Lisbon Book Fair, which is new to me, and so I was there every day during the Lisbon Book Fair. That meant I knew every single deal there was. I knew all the books that were there. I just walked around a lot, so I knew all the stands where everything was, and that turned out to be very bad for my wallet. That being said, I did buy some books before the Lisbon Book Fair, and so I'm gonna mention them now. Then I'm gonna move on to the Lisbon Book Fair haul. So let's start. So I bought two Penguin Essentials. The first one is the most popular book by an author I studied in university. I've mentioned her here in this channel, which is Muriel Spark, and this is The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Now, this is her most famous work. There's a movie adaptation with Maggie Smith in it. I know what it's about, but I don't. It's like I have no idea. There's very little written about her. There's very little mentioned of her, even online. A lot of people don't know Muriel Spark. And so I've just made myself her defender here, I guess. So there we go. That's The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. It cost me €2. And then we also have White Sargasso Sea by Jean Rice. Now, I've been hearing amazing things about this since BookTube appeared. I know it's a take on Jane Eyre and about the Mad Woman in the Attic. I also took a class, as you know, about post-colonial studies in literature, and so I've read something very similar to this, but it's a take on Robinson Crusoe, Fell, by G.M. Coetzee, and so I thought it was appropriate. It's also very short. This edition, I like to match my books, and so this belongs to the same collection. There's also one of Fell in this collection, but I didn't buy that one at the time. Next we have Circe by Madeline Miller. Now, if you're on BookTube, you know about this book. It's been all the rage. Everyone is loving it. This is a modern take or a modern retelling story of Circe, and it's kind of taking her heart out of the villain role she has been put in. I love me some feminist books, so that's that. I also look at it, it's so shiny. Also, I love Greek mythology. I loved mythology when I was growing up. I was just obsessed with mythology, and so I'm very, very interested in reading this book, and I think it's going to be a very interesting read. Also, everyone says it's amazing, so there's that. Another book that I've been wanting to read for a very long time, and now that the movie has been announced as being in production or in pre-production, I'm very excited about it, and that is Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. This is his kind of autobiography or kind of chronicles of his life as a South African boy, and it's ridiculous how literally he was born a crime, and he was like the embodiment of the crime his parents committed, and how he had to be hidden away and stuff like that. I cannot wait to read his stories. He has a very unique voice in his stand-up and in his TV show, so I cannot wait. Next we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Now, I've been on a quest to buy a lot of the classics I read in Portuguese in English, and in this edition particularly. In this case, the Bronte sisters novels. I've bought The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I've bought Jane Eyre in English, which I've read in Portuguese before, and now it has come to Wuthering Heights. I love this cover, I love this edition, as I've mentioned before many times, but this cover, I find it really, really beautiful. I've read Wuthering Heights. It was actually the first Bronte novel I read, but I do want to read it in English because I'm sure that the prose and the style of Emily's writing is going to be beautiful. So there you go, another one to the collection. And next, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is an American classic. I've heard amazing things about it. Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows what it is about, but I've never read it. And I've been meaning to pick up an edition that would make me want to read it, and this is kind of it. It's a beautiful cover by Vintage. So there you go, another classic to the list. And then we have the final book of this kind of out of the book fair haul, which is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I don't know much about it except that everyone kind of enjoys reading it. I know it's a non-fiction written by this journalist Dolly Alderton. She's a young woman from Britain, and yeah, I don't know much about it, but I thought it would be kind of cool to go into it not knowing much about it, except that the cover is very appealing and the theme seems right up my street, so there we go. So now we are heading into the actual Lisbon Book Fair haul, and I've bought too many books. I think this is all. I couldn't find more, and it's an insane amount. So I'm just gonna go through them very quickly, because I think all in all it was 29. I need another shelf. So that's that. Let's start. So the first one is the theme of this Lisbon Book Fair and why I bought so much. It's mainly because I wanted to start trying to read more classical authors, especially, 20th century and end of 19th century, from other languages than not English. Because, I work at a bookstore and we do advise a lot of people, and some of my colleagues also advised me. And so I've been hearing a lot of recommendations. And so I've gained more, awareness of other authors. I mean, a lot of these authors I already knew who they are. This first one I'm going to mention, of course I knew, but I've never read anything by him. The first one I have here is Lev Tolstoy, and this is the Kreutzer Sonata. Of course, because it was the Lisbon Book Fair, it was mostly Portuguese publishers, and so I picked up a lot of non-English books in the Portuguese translation. So this is a small book by Tolstoy. I was between this and Anna Karenina, but then I thought, don't be that ambitious yet. So I picked up this little guy. I've heard it's a very good way of starting Tolstoy, starting to read Tolstoy. And so I picked this one up. The next one is by a Portuguese author. I've never read anything by him, but he is a very well received, very well loved by the mainstream public, and and has been publishing a lot of books recently. So this is João Tordo, and this is the Sabbatic, or the sabbatical year. If he is translated, which I have no idea if it is, he is translated in France, and in Italy, and in Germany, and in Hungary. So if you are from any of those places, go check something of his out. But this is the sabbatical year. The main character is cellist, and that's most of what I know. I was between a lot of them, and then the lady at the stand recommended this one. So because it was a shorter one, I thought it would be a good place to start. So there you go. Then I kind of caved in and bought a book that I never intended to buy, and I think I was in such a frenzy when I bought this that it just came with me, and I didn't even notice. I was picking up the illustrated one, but this is Mary Kondo's book. This is the illustrated guide to the Magical Life of Tidying Up. This is Spark Joy, an illustrated masterclass on the art of organizing and tidying up. So this is kind of the more practical version of her book. That's what it is. I don't know. I watched a Netflix show, and that's the only justification I have for buying this. So, there you go. Then I picked up another book by a Portuguese author. This is, I think, the first book she wrote. I have no idea if that is correct, but it is her most well-regarded book, and that is O Retorno by Dulce Maria Cardoso. I think this is translated into English. I think you just have to kind of look for it. But this means the return, and it is about the moving back from the ex-colonies to Portugal after the revolution in 74. So it's set in 1975 in Luanda, which is the capital city of Angola, which was one of our ex-colonies, a Portuguese ex-colony. And this is about Portuguese that, have to return to Portugal after being there for a long time. Very complicated time in our history. Moving on. So I'm just gonna go them very fast because you don't know anything about these authors, so I'm just gonna mention them very quickly. So I have Pedro Mexia's Chronicles, Lá Fora. I have Brazilian writers and, you know, very funny Brazilian people. So this is Nude Botas by Antonio Prata. The title means naked wearing boots. So there you go. Then I have Gregório do Vivier, Caviar é uma ova. So this means caviar is a fish egg. Something like that. He's also a very funny comedian. And then I have what I went there to pick up, which is another book by Ricardo Araújo Pereira. And this is The Illness, Suffering and Death Going to a Bar. But this book is actually not a book of chronicles. So usually, and I've mentioned this author before, he writes chronicles in newspapers or, you know, for TV or something like that, and then he kind of publish them all together in a book. In this case, that's not the case. This is a book written about the writing of comedy. So it's what he calls his first book, even though it was not technically, because it was written to be a book, and it is a kind of a sort of humoristic writing guide. Very short, and I think it will be very funny, also very entertaining. He is a very smart person. He does very smart humor, and so that's why I keep, you know, reaching for his writing. And so that's what this is. Moving on, I have a Portuguese author, and that is Alice Vieira. If you are Portuguese, you will recognize this author. She is like the mother of our childhood. There's 3 of them. There's 4 of them. There's Alice Vieira, there's Sofia de Mel Breiner, and there's Ana Maria Magalhães, Isabel Alçada, which are 2 authors that always work together and they create a lot of like series of books. This guy is Alice Vieira. She writes lovely stories about, you know, just normal people. And it's funny how, you know, this is classified as a children's fiction, but I mean, you can read them as a 24-year-old or, you know, 30-year-old and still get something out of it. And she uses a very beautiful language, but very normal as well, and it's very entertaining to read. I just want to read more of her, so I just decided that I'm gonna buy one of her books every book fair. So that's the one I picked up this year, and it means this is A Lua Não Está à Venda, or in English, The Moon Is Not For Sale. I don't know if it's translated, but if you read Portuguese, pick this one up. If you are studying Portuguese, for example, pick this one up, because it will be, pick anything from this author up, because it's very easy to read and it will be good practice. Then I bought a debut novel by a very well-known, very well-regarded author. I mean, he has won so many prizes, so it's really I mean, he was awarded the top prize for a writer in Portuguese. So he is very well known and very well regarded. I've read something from him, but I've never read it, you know, as an adult. So I picked up his first book, which is Terra Sonâmbula, and this is from Mia Couto. He is an author from Mozambique. He writes about his homeland, but, you know, he's also very well regarded, so I wanted to pick something up from him. So there we go. As I told you, most of the books I picked up, the reason why I picked them up was because I wanted to read from these well-regarded authors, so that's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm showing you. So then I bought another Saramago, and as you may know, Saramago is our only Nobel Prize for Literature, and this is Jangada de Pedra. I don't know the title in English, but it is about, you know, what if the Iberian Peninsula separated from Europe and it would just, you know, like go into the ocean. I'm slowly collecting them, even though I haven't read a lot of his work. I know I enjoy them while I'm reading them, and so I decided to pick this one up because I thought it would be interesting to me. So that's that. So then we go into the foreign writers again. This is Tract of Mercy, I will say in English, or something like that, or O Golpe da Misericórdia by Marguerite Yourcenar. This is a very short book, you know, kind of an introduction to her. I wouldn't know where to start with her, and I find her most well-regarded novels to be very daunting. They are not very short, and so I thought maybe this would be an easy introduction to her writing. And it is a novel. Apparently it's after the end of the First World War, there's a civil war, and there is a love story. So all of those things attract my interest, so there you go. Next we have an author that I haven't read yet, which is ridiculous, and his most famous work. So this is Primo Levi. This is If This Is a Man. I think that's the title in English. This is considered a very classic. It's also about the Holocaust. He was in Auschwitz, and so this book is about, I guess it deals with that. And he's one of the most well-regarded Italian writers of the post-Second World War. So, I mean, of course I have to pick this up. In a way, I'm trying to, use the most of the last few years where I can enjoy YA. I'm just building up my collection. So I'm not saying I'm gonna read this straight away. All of these books I'm, hauling. But, now I have them. So we can discuss that in the comments, which of these classical authors have you read? Which ones do you love the most? Because I do love classics. Sometimes I'm scared of them, especially if they're from the 20th century. I have to be honest, I'm a little bit scared of them. Don't know why, but yeah. So the next one is also a very daunting author, so I decided to pick up his smallest book. It does say on the back that it is a very autobiographical novel, which is, sometimes it hasn't been my most clever choice. Sometimes it works out fine. To start with a more autobiographical novel so that I can, kind of understand their mind while I'm then reading other books by them. So this is Thomas Mann's Tonio Kruger. Kruger? I do not speak German. So Thomas Mann is a German author. He's one of those Germans that left Germany because he was completely against the Nazi party, and so he lived in exile in the United States, and then he returned to Europe in 1952. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Fiction. That's kind of a theme here as well. But yeah, I didn't know where to start. He's one of his most well-regarded books. He's gigantic. So I didn't want to start with that. So I thought maybe this would be a very good place to start. So there we go. And it's kind of a classic already. So yes. Next book is not a classic. This is a very recent novel that was kind of instantly translated into Portuguese. And it's about Eddie Lamar. And this is called The Only Woman in the Room, I think in English, by Mary Benedict. I usually read this kind of book in English, but it was kind of the same price as it is in English right now, because it's being sold in hardback for now. It's also, there's not a lot of books published about women in sciences, so I wanted to, give this one a go. It's about this brilliant woman who is also very beautiful and then became very well known for being, a movie star, a very beautiful movie star, but also she created the technology that allows us the Wi-Fi, because I'm just, yes, women in sciences. I love that whole, topic. I'm very excited to read this book. That's it. Going back to the classical vibe of this haul, I have Luigi Pirandello, O Falecido Mattia Pascal, or in English I think it's something like The Deceased Mattia Pascal. This is an Italian classic. It was written in 1904. I've heard that it's very good. It is an Italian classic. I'm trying to go into more European authors that are not just English. And so that's why I bought this. It was also very cheap. I've heard it's a very, dark humored novel. And, I do love some, irony. So there we go. Next, I have a sci-fi novel, which is, not usual for me. And that is Ursula Le Guin. And this in English is The Dispossessed. This is the Portuguese edition. It's called Os Despojados. I thought it would be easier to read sci-fi in Portuguese. It is one of those genres that I still find it easier to read translated. It was also very cheap at the book fair, so I thought I would give it a go in Portuguese. And then I have a very big book by Julia Navarro, and this is Diz-me Quem Sou, Tell Me Who I Am. It's how the title translates. And this is a story about the 20th century through the eyes of a mysterious woman. So I do love an epic tale. So this goes through the Spanish Civil War, the Second World War, and the Cold War. And so just, goes through all the major dramatic events of the 20th century. Some of them. This is a behemoth. It's gigantic. But when it's historical novels, I'm okay with the book being enormous. In a way, it makes me feel like the story will be very complete. I kind of like that in historical books. Also, the Portuguese translations are always majorly enormous. So there we go. Going back to authors that write in Portuguese, we have an author from Angola called José Eduardo Agualusa, also one of the most well-regarded contemporary authors from that country, and this is the A Sociedade dos Sonhadores Involuntários. I've never read anything by him. It does feel like he has a lot of magical realism in it, which I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. I tried to pick up the one that sounded like it had the more plot in it, but let's see. I have no idea how I'm gonna find this, but I've heard amazing things about Agualusa. He is a very well-regarded author, so let's try. That's the theme of this haul, as we've come to realize. Then I have another author, Portuguese author. This one kind of not appropriate to say in English, but or even in Portuguese. But this is one of his books by Miguel Esteves Cardoso, and this is How Beautiful Life Is. It has a swear word in it, but it is, that's a cover. I don't know much about it, but I picked it up because it was on sale and I just wanted to kind of try to read something by him. That's the theme. So there you go. Next we have a historical novel by João Pedro Marques, and this is Uma Fazenda em África. Again, a historical novel. This is about the Portuguese Empire and about the colonization of Brazil as well. So there we go, another historical novel to add to my ginormous pile of them, Portuguese ones especially. Then we have actually a biography of a very unknown princess of Portugal called Dona Beatriz de Portugal, and this is a biography of this Infanta, as we call it, so the daughter of a king. Yeah, it's not very long, and I do love reading about Portuguese women in history, so it's just up my street. And then we have a novel that I bought because this author just recently died, and I knew about her, I knew about her work, I just never happened to pick hers up. I've never read anything by her, curiously, so I thought I would go with her first book, which is also, most people say her best work, and that is A Sibila by Agostina Bessa Luís. Agostina Bessa Luís just recently died, and she was a very well-regarded Portuguese author that didn't get as much fame as she deserved, according to many. And this book is one of her most celebrated works, and so I thought it would be a very good place to start with, especially because it was also her first novel. So yeah, there we go. It was written in 1954, so it's over 50 years old. One that I picked up before we go into books in English. I bought Nimona, which is a graphic novel by Noelle Stevenson. This graphic novel is originally written in English, but I did buy the translated edition just because I thought it would be easier. It's also a very good edition, and it was on sale, so there you go. This is Nimona. I don't know much about it. I know it's very well loved in the booktube community, and so that's why I picked it up. It's also very good to read when I'm in the reading rush or doing a reading marathon. It's very good for that. So there you go. And so now, finally, I've been talking for so long, we'll go into the English books. I don't know why I tell you about all of these Portuguese books. I do know some Portuguese people are watching. Hi there. So maybe it's because of that, but I cannot not mention this many books just because they're not in English. I mean, a part of my job here is to kind of make you aware there's more authors than authors that write in English. So there you go. That's my 2 cents on that topic. So the books in English that I actually bought. And so I have to start by explaining that I've been obsessed with the show and with an E. So much so that I decided to buy the books. I was thinking about buying the entire collection, but then I thought maybe that was a bit extreme because not all good adaptations come from, amazing books. So I thought maybe I'll just start with the first one. But then I didn't want to start with an ugly version of it because I do like my matching covers. So I bought two books that are very beautiful, and it's these editions of classics in English, children's classics. Look at it. They're so beautiful. This is the Penguin edition with the Victoria and Albert Museum, using William Morris wallpapers as backgrounds for the covers. They are beautiful. So the first one I want to mention is indeed Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I guess she is Canadian, so this is actually Canadian classic. Really want to read this. I'm gonna probably highlight all the cute moments between Anne and Gilbert. Let's be honest, I'm obsessed. But that being said, I'm in love with this show, and I really wanted to pick it up. I really love reading classics, as you know. So there we go. This was the first one I picked up. And then I also picked up The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Love the movie, beautiful. It made me cry at the end, and I thought the book might be very beautiful as well. The cover itself is it's worth having the book because this is beautiful, and I thought I would pick this up and give it a go. And then I bought a sci-fi classic. Now, I've then come to realize I own a book by this author in my beautiful Penguin English Library editions, and so I might pass this edition on to somebody else to buy this book in another cover. But it was very cheap, so it's okay. This is The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I don't read much sci-fi, so I thought this would be a very good way of reading some classic sci-fi. Then we have two more books. First, we have Watership Down by Richard Adams. I picked this up on a sale. It was like €5 or something, and it's huge. And I thought this is a beautiful metaphor, and the main characters are rabbits. So there we go. I picked this one up. Don't know much about it. I know it's kind of an epic tale about, I guess, the 20th century, but from the perspective of rabbits. So that's that. Apparently there's a kids show about, adapting this book. So that would be cool to watch. Yeah, so I decided to pick it up because it was kind of cheap for the book that it is. There you go. Another classic. And then the final book, which was not the final book I picked up in the book fair, but it's the final book I'm showing you today. This is a very sad, emotional book. This is a non-fiction, and it's by a very well-regarded journalist, and that is The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. I've heard it's about death, of her dealing with her husband's death, I think. I've never read anything by Joan Didion, but I've heard amazing things about her as a figure, as a role model, as an activist, as a journalist, and so I really wanted to pick something from her up. This was on sale, so it was discounted, and I really wanted to, grab it. I just love the covers, the colors as well in this book. So there you go. And after this massive piles of books that has just accumulated here, I finally finished this haul. So now that we've reached the end of this haul, what did you think of these authors? Is there anyone here that you would love to read? Leave comments down below telling me, have you read any of these classical authors? Is there anyone I should read right now? Are any of these authors your favorite? Something, anything, just, comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you soon with a new video soon. Bye!